Hey everyone. So we've updated the TP Group Manager to do quite a few nice new things. I think you'll like it. We can now throw out a big table view, modify a whole bunch, select all of them, modify stuff en masse. We can coordinate the selections of these groups in between. We can rename particle operators as we go. So now we can just name these directly through this field here or over in this area. And so you can see that updates here on the right. This is called a rollout creator function. We've gone ahead and included all the scripts, so if you want to edit the script you can take a look and see what we did, blah blah blah. It's a little complex, but basically this allows you to manage TP groups in a much nicer way than having to click a single group and tweak its parameters. This is called the main view, and this has, of course, all the current groups that you have listed. Pick your TP here. We only have one in the scene right now, but it'll show other TPs if you have it. Select no groups, select all, invert, blah, blah, blah. So we can select all these, and we can say, hey, display all of them as drops. And now it'll keep drops for each of them, right? You can also access the master dynamic here on the global functions, and so we can enable the master dynamic display override, set all the particles as dots with mesh without actually modifying their parameters. Again, that's just how the master dynamic works. You can enable the sprite texture and all that, show every, all that stuff. Okay, so the other nice fun thing is, let's go ahead and clean up some of these group names here real quick, is that we have added some what's called special functions. And so special functions, you need to select a bunch of groups that you want to affect. Let's just say all. And we've got things like auto color all the groups, and so we can go ahead and apply a rainbow spectrum to all of them. Unfortunately, we need to modify this so that if there's too many groups, it'll like modify the saturation of value as well. Right now it doesn't do that, but maybe later. You could modify only groups who are the color white, in which case it's all of them, but that'll detect if that actual group color is a pure white color and modify its color. Since that's default, it's not exactly useful. My personal favorite is actually the save default group properties and load default group properties for selected. We'll take a look at that in a quick sec because I got to get rid of this VDB, this prefix here. Sometimes TP users would rename their groups to try to force the display of things in different interfaces. I totally understand why, and maybe someday that'll change inside TP, but for now, if you ever need to clean those up, you can just say, hey, remove all alphanumeric, and of course these special functions only affect the selected groups. So boom, now it's taken off the two dashes off the front of that VDB, but not the dash in the force bound because it's not a prefix. So it only affects prefix non-alphanumeric characters. Okay, back to the fun stuff. So special function, load default group properties for selected. Okay, so you see what we did there. We just hit that button with all these groups selected, and it's set these groups to have the properties that we like to have. So what this does is, based on the group name and whatever settings that you set here, like let's say I'm going to modify this just because it's easy, and we'll say, hey, make all these red, and and here's something else interesting. If these four are selected, but I go up here to the all category and I say, hey, turn off your mesh, it's going to select off the all mesh and the ones who are checked. Okay, so that's kind of how that table function works when modifying items who are not checked. You could check the system row and say, hey, turn off shape render. It'll do the system and also whoever's checked. But basically, let's take a look here. Let's go a little further. Let's just go ahead and say all. I'm going to disable all these and turn on do not cache, right? And set my show every to 2. So I set up all these parameters. I've got everything checked, and I can say, hey, load my default groups selected. Now these are I've already saved these group properties as the favorites. The system menu here has a bunch of nice stuff like being able to open the current max file directory, certain other plugin directories. But the big thing is you can say, hey, either edit this script, open the scripter directory, or edit the pref file. And the pref file is going to show you where we keep all these parameters. So we've got save group settings, and it shows you that, hey, for the all group, I want to save this color, this display type, and these different properties for it, which would correspond to like show mesh, shape render, volume render, etc. That's all fine and dandy, but let's say we decide, hey, I want the default color. Let's go ahead and do that again. I want the default color for these to always be red, right? And so, and I'm going to say no mesh, no shape render, and no volume, and do not cache, and set the show every to like 4. Okay, so with these 3 selected, I'm gonna go and say do special functions, save default group properties for selected, and it updates that because it's open in the script editor at the moment. But let's go ahead and say, hey, select everything, and let's do this. Let's change this. Set them all to black. Set all these, turn all these on or off, and set it to 2, right? So now what we can do is we can say, hey, load default group properties, and it's got those red. It sets all those categories to whatever we had set. So if you're dealing with groups and you don't want to have to set the same parameters every time, you can just save them once and call them back anytime. Just remember that you do have to select the groups that you want to apply that to. And you can do that in either the rollout creator menu, what's sometimes called the grid view, or you can do that here in the main view and just select these and save those parameters or load the parameters, etc. Access all the same functions. So anyway, we hope you find this script useful. Let's take a quick look at how to install it and get up and going, and then get out there and have fun and make cool stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at installing this Group Manager version 2.0. You'll download the zip, extract it, start your Macs, then all you have to do is drag the MZP into the scene. Oh, well, actually, you might want to read the README, right? And it tells you about how to install it and the license, blah, 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 which is Creative Commons version 4. Drop this MZP into the Mac's viewport, and it's going to hopefully say installer success, and that tells you that the macros are available under the customized user interface under the Machine3d category. Then you're going to get the user license agreement. Basically says, yeah, all that, read it. It's pretty easy and clear. Agree, hopefully. Now it's going to want you to pick a global prefs directory for the Machine3d scripts. This is so that it'll store the UI positions, because isn't it a pain to put a UI somewhere in the viewport and then have it reset itself to wherever the developer thought it should instead of where you put it. Anyway, pick a directory that's going to work for you, and then accept. It'll also detect the last used directory if you have multiple M3D scripts. And so here we are, boom. So now you'll notice as I move this up here and I can turn on the grid view, I can launch that and get rid of it. So now, of course, we're going to come to how do I customize the interface so I can call that script again. Well, in this case, let's just pretend like we want to set it up under a quad. You might want a toolbar or whatever. You should see a category for Machine3d. And we're going to drop this out. Just put it here for the moment. Don't forget that you have to save that parameter in order for it to be sticky in Macs. And then boom, and there it is. So now we can access that, and these UIs are going to be exactly where you left them the last time. So hopefully you put them someplace that is pleasant for you. So in our case, it could just be right there and it'll be fine. Okay, if you don't like macros, you know, you can also do, you can figure out where the script lives by typing shell launch space quotes explorer and then param getter user scripts. So it should be in user scripts, and this is where you're going to find the Machine3d category, and then the script you're going to want is this group manager. Let's go ahead and drop this in here. You can see that again, bunch of information, and we left all the original code visible, so that if you decide you want to rip this stuff apart and kind of learn from any of it, please help yourself. Got some nice things here in the TP core functions library, which has useful functions for parsing the dynamic set tree or the group tree, as well as some basic TP utilities. We've got a registry function for interfacing with the registry, where you can look at and affect how to deal with keys pretty easily. Right-click menu system if you need to. Let's see, I'll show you the right RCM system is based on this button here. When you click on that system, it activates the RCM menu. And this lets you set up a bunch of functions for doing things like, hey, open this max file directory, but it's not saved right now, so that won't help us. But you could do other things like editing the pref file. And you can see, hey, where is the UI stored, the position for it, or the rollout creator's position should be, as well as if you want to manually modify some of these or delete them, whatever, you can do that. And so, yeah, there's that. Let's go see anything else. Oh, yeah, prefs. Prefs is a big one. This stores user window positions. It deals with, it interfaces with the registry. You see it's got a file in for that. This is all super complex stuff. If you're a programmer or scripter, you'll get into it. But if you're just here to use the TP Group Manager, yeah, you're already ready. Get in there and go for it. If you have any questions, comments, go ahead and reach out. You can find us on the Facebook TP CBIS forum, or on the Discord channel is the easiest, fastest way to reach us in person. So hope you guys are doing well, and rock on. We'll talk to you later.